What are some gruesome facts about pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum that not many people know? My belly button popped out when I was pregnant. It was visible through my shirts and was terribly embarrassing. Pawns. Hemorrhoids are kind of unavoidable, and doctors love looking at them. Cons. If you go past your due date, a doctor or midwife may think it's a great idea to separate the membranes. You may or may not want to look it up. It isn't pleasant. Pons. I probably pooped while I was giving birth. I am afraid to ask anyone. If so, a lot of people saw me poop. Pons. My boots were leaking so badly after I gave birth that my cats thought I was a drinking fountain. That was fun to wake up to. If you have a really bad headache later in your pregnancy, take your blood pressure if it's high. Call the triage line. Get seen. You can be fine one day and develop pre-eclampsia the next. It can come on sudden and severely. It can also damage your kidneys. Pawns. You can still have wicked postpartum hemorrhoids if you have a C-section. Pawns. Edema. You may have a lot of swelling in your legs and the rest of your body after pregnancy. It's relatively normal and should go away. You have a lot of extra fluid to get rid of now. Postpartum depression is extremely dangerous and can last for months after their birth. After my twins were born, my wife had a complete personality change. She became suicidal and at times abusive to me. At one point she ran away from home. I found her 2 states away. Her brother had to bring her home. Things got really bad. The twins are 5 now, and she's the person I married again. She doesn't like to talk about those times. The only thing she'll say is it was the darkest time in her entire life. Don't stand up immediately after giving birth without a spill pad on the floor. I had natural childbirth. The nurse left the room, and I got up to go pee. Blood-coloured fluid rushed out of me and into a huge puddle on the floor. I just stood there, shocked. The nurse came back in almost immediately. She shook her head and blamed herself. She said she forgot to tell me not to get up until she put down towels or stuff, because the vast majority of new mothers couldn't get out of bed due to numbing meds. You can do everything right, no drugs, no alcohol, all the right prenatals, no sushi, no cookie dough, proper water intake, and still be staring at the 20-week ultrasound in shock after the nurse tells you there is a birth defect. Ow. Completely out of left field for me. Felt like my world was crashing down. Brett to say he was born with a cleft lip, operated at 6 months, and at 5 years he's in speech therapy, seeing a nutritionist, but otherwise a healthy and happy boy. More people need to know and talk about perinatal depression. Pawns. I was fully prepared for the chance of postpartum depression. I was not expecting to be smacked with suicidal ideation mid-pregnancy. Perinatal depression is not uncommon either. It occurs in approximately 1 in 10 pregnancies because of the hormonal changes. Pawns. Please, if you're not feeling okay, reach out to your care team. They will hook you up with the treatment and support you need without judgment. If you have laboratory full dilation, you can still wind up with an emergency C-section, so you don't get the at least you can sit down your baby has a nice round head benefits of not delivering vaginally. Pawns. If your baby's head is stuck in the birth canal when they do the C-section in these circumstances, freeing it comes with a really juicy squelching pop breaking the suction. Quite unnerving to hear. About month 7, I told my husband I could feel my skin expanding all over my body. Arms, belly, back, boobs. He had the audacity to chuckle and say, I don't think so, you know it's hormones. I told him if he said the word hormones again in the next 8 months I would smash his head in the oven door and then bake his liver. Pawns. Yeah, hormones will have you saying some weird shit. But I was deadly serious. When you get a C-section, they may have to take the section of intestines covering your uterus out of your body. Like, it's just sitting in a bowl next to you. Then once the baby's out and your uterus is stitched back up, they just pack your guts back in and sew you up. Usually it's just pushed to the side, though. Pawns. Also, your uterus is pulled partially out of your abdomen so they can deliver the baby. Near the end of my pregnancy, I had terrible gingivitis. Apparently pregnancy can cause this and carpal tunnel in both hands from the swelling that lasted months postpartum. Pawns. Also, no one tells you about the swelling that can happen postpartum. I had a C-section and the swelling in my legs and ankles was so painful it lasted for weeks. I could barely bend my knees and my ankles were not existent. If you are a short person carrying a big baby, your rib cage will take a beating. I'm and have long legs, but a short trunk, and my son was delivered at 21 8 pounds 13 oz. During the last 2 months in utero, he had no room. His kicking and stretching were right up to my sternum. I was bruised for weeks after birth. I didn't notice any vaginal pain, probably because my ribs were so sore. The only way I could possibly pee was in the shower with warm water running over me. It pawns. I didn't poop for a week after. When I finally did, I was so excited. I called my boyfriend at work to tell him about it. It pawns. Your boobs will leak. They'll also go hard as rocks if you don't massage them or express some milk out. Breastfeeding at first can really hurt. Sometimes it takes weeks to be able to stand up, sit down, walk again without a ton of pain. It pawns. No one fucking told me that the first time. I was so focused on how the actual birth might be painful, had no realisation that for over a month afterward I'd be in danger of burning to death if the house ever caught fire because I could barely walk. That your bladder can freeze from a C-section. It took me 4 days to be able to pee. The number of catheters I had put in me made me cry by the end. I couldn't get a permanent one put in until an order was placed, so they kept using temporary ones to make sure I didn't burst my bladder. Holy frack, the pain while I'm being held together with staples. The feeling of your organs going back down after they were cramped up for so long is a bit frightening, especially the lungs. Standing up I could feel like they were weighted down. Pawns. People talk about cracked nipples and painful latching while discussing breastfeeding, but nobody talks about your uterus contracting during the first days of it. The reason we believe women with postnatal psychosis, if they end their lives while unwell, they do so in almost always a violent manner, setting themselves on fire for it, is because the inbuilt maternal protective instinct gets turned inward towards themselves because they feel they're the threat. Pons. Source: perinatal psychiatric nurse. The sheer pain of your milk coming in. As someone who was never well endowed to that area, when my boobs swelled up 5 sizes bigger than normal, then went rock solid to the point I couldn't touch them, wear clothing or lie down to the sheer pain. Contemplated cutting them off, but loaded myself with decongestants to dry out my milk supply. Happened to a friend of a friend, but I heard too many gory details to ever forget. Tiny framed woman plus large-headed baby delivered vaginally equals tearing from vagina to anus so terribly that it takes a couple years and multiple surgeries to even come remotely close to fixing. Basically blew her whole bottom out. I don't know what Johnny Cash's On the Ring of Fire was supposed to be about, because in reality it is the insane pain from the baby's head passing through your cervix. Every child I had, I ended up screaming to my husband that I could feel the ring of fire, and the baby was close 3 times without an epidural. Not exactly gruesome, but still something to be aware of. Pawns. If you have older kids, expect to have to readjust their sleep schedules as well as your own, all while trying to regulate the babies. I was 5'1" when my sister was born, and she's still the only one who doesn't have a completely screwed up sleep schedule. You can develop pregnancy carpal tunnel in your wrists. My last pregnancy, I had to wear braces on both wrists. The pain kept me up and would wake me up. I would just cry because of my wrists feeling like they were being crushed. Makes daily living a nightmare. Any action that required using my hands was searing pain. My wife's placenta wouldn't detach after the birth of our daughter, so the nurse just went up in there and got it out. I was oohing and eyeing over our new baby girl, and I look over to see someone damn near elbow deep treating my wife like a sock puppet. It was so jarring. Mothers are so damn tough, dude, it's unreal. All of your joints and ligaments get bendy and loose because you're getting pumped full of a hormone called relaxin. It's necessarily to allow your body to stretch out for pregnancy and delivery, but when I had a bad cough, it turned my coughing into such bad fits that I would throw up and pee. At the same time, if you have a C-section, you will never get feeling back around your scar. It's so weird to scratch something and not be able to feel it, and it could still be sensitive, hurt even years later. Oh, and you'll probably have scar tissue on your uterus, so periods will make your scar hurt. It's fun being a woman. A large number of people have significant trouble conceiving. Many don't like to talk about it publicly or be constantly reminded of it, so you should refrain from teasing young couples about when are they going to start having kids, since there's a good chance they are already trying and are having trouble. Maybe not everyone knows, but you can become temporarily diabetic during pregnancy. But also fun fact, sometimes it sticks around and you end up with type 2. Your chances of it increase by something like 50 if you've had gestational diabetes. This is how I ended up with at the age of 32. You know what a taint is? That little strip of skin between the anus and the vagina testicles. They pons. Yea, that tears like wet tissue paper. If it doesn't tear though, don't worry, they'll literally cut it with scissors. Pons. Isn't interesting that you suddenly feel that area of your body suddenly? Preeclampsia can last up to 6 weeks postpartum. You'd be amazed at how many emergency personnel don't know this. When asked if you have any medical history, please volunteer the information that you are postpartum. Don't wait for them to specifically ask. Steps off of soapbox. If you have to use the toilet and vomit, sit on the toilet and puke into the trash can. Pons. You might need to poop while breastfeeding. Like in the middle of it. Sit on the toilet and do your business while the kid feeds. This will not be the weirdest experience while parenting. You will probably be very low on iron. Iron supplements will probably make you very sick. Kellogg's cereals such as Frosted Mini Wheats have 100 of your daily value of iron in a serving. Put 2 measuring cups of it in a Ziploc bag and snack on them during the day. Every pregnancy can be completely different. The horrible things you got used to the first time. It's very likely you will have completely new horrible things this time. Also, sometimes the drugs don't kick in before the C-section. I felt my third one completely.